On this episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast, we talk about Terrasite by Cattle Decapitation. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
We're two professional broadcasters. We like metal, and we like to talk about it. And today there's a brand new album that came out last week from one of our favorite death metal bands,
Right.
Cattle Decapitation from San Diego, California. And we'll get to talking about it later on in this episode, talk about what we thought about it, share our feelings about it, that sort of thing. It's what we do here.
It is what we do.
First, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing great. I had a remote today. Went to the one did you go?
I did not. No,
You did not go. Okay.
not this year.
Right. But you've been in the past.
I've been in the past, but this year the sort of scheduling was all times that would have fucked with my ability to do what really is the most major portion of my job.
Right.
At this point, so I did not attend the blood drive remotes this year.
The Battle of the Badges.
The Battle of the Badges. But we've got so many remotes coming up at work.
I know.
Got so many. It's like not a weekend for the first half of the summer. I feel like.
I feel like I've worked the last 3 Saturdays.
Like it's a little frustrating, but
Tired.
it's money, I guess.
Yeah.
Money. You been playing any video games lately?
I mean, here and there, not as much as I had been. I guess this past weekend. You had a busy home.
I
had a busy home, but a bunch of 6th graders in my home, and a lot of Dead Island was played.
Okay, and the new one?
No, it was the first one.
Really?
Max just got the new one.
Because the first one's old as fuck.
Yeah, it's fun though.
Okay, that's good.
It's real fun, and the new one apparently takes place in Los Angeles.
Yeah, which is like, since that was announced, everyone's been like, "Why LA? That's not an island."
Yeah, it's not right. Whatever. Yeah.
Whatever. Your mother's calling you.
I don't have time right now, Mom.
It's weird to me that iPhones don't have an option to just not answer.
You know, usually they do.
Like, because my phone has that where it comes up, and if I see that it's a number I don't recognize, I can just hit the red phone button,
right,
and the call will end, and I don't have to look at it anymore.
I sometimes get the feeling that it just doesn't give you that option when the name Mom comes up on the screen. Like, you will answer your mother.
Should really answer this. But yeah, I thought it was kind of odd that the new one is like, it's Dead Island, but Los Angeles. Like, you could at least, I mean, could you have it all take place on Catalina? Catalina Island?
Catalina Island?
The Catalina wine mixer. I guess I don't know if there's that much stuff on that island. I don't think, I don't know. I don't know my Los Angeles geography. Like,
you know, I lived there for 8 years, but I wasn't doing a lot of driving. I
have hardly any idea where anything in the entire LA metro area is in relation to each other. I know names, and I know that these are all things in the LA metro area, but I have no idea where in space they are.
Right.
Like,
they're in California.
Yeah, yes, that part I know. I know they're in California. But yeah, the rest of it, like, I don't know where the fuck Pasadena is in relation to Hollywood. Like, Hollywood's about the only thing I know where that is. It's, up in the mountains, basically, or towards the mountains anyway. Like, Hollywood, I could figure out where that's. Also, there's a big fucking sign,
right,
that tells you where it at. Like,
yeah,
that's not so hard.
The Hollywood Hills. Yeah.
Everything else, I have no fucking clue.
I could probably get, if we landed at LAX, I could probably drive us to where I was born.
Okay. Whenever I see satellite pictures of LA, it just hurts my brain. There's too much.
Too much there?
And it's all so spread out. Where were you born, by the way?
Simi Valley.
Simi Valley. Okay, yeah, you've told me that before.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, I look at overhead. Like I look at the Google images and I'm just like, it's too many.
There's too much stuff here.
There's too much stuff there. There's too many people. It hurts my brain. And when I think about you never hear anyone speak highly of the ability to get around Los Angeles.
Right.
No one seems to enjoy traveling around the LA metro area. It seems like it's really poorly designed when it comes to their transportation there. And there's no the public transportation seems to be shit as well.
Kind of, yeah.
It's not like New York.
Right. In New York, people walk places.
Yeah. But
in LA, nobody does.
You can't well, I feel like you kind of can't walk anywhere in Los Angeles.
Yes.
Also, because there are so many, like the interstates in New York are all elevated up above places, whereas the interstates in Los Angeles, as far as I'm aware, a lot of them are at ground level, so you can't just walk past. It's like Fargo. You can't fucking walk to a lot of places in Fargo because eventually you'll hit the interstate, and it's it's one of the things that pisses me off about driving in Fargo. Is if some places across town, you're going to have to go 2 miles out of your way to get on the interstate,
right,
in order to just get back to where you were 100 yards across the interstate.
Right.
It frustrates the shit out of me because Fargo's so fucking flat.
There are elevated freeways
in LA. Well, I mean, the famous, there's a really big one.
The LA freeway?
Well, no, there's a massive interchange that I feel like is kind of famous. Yeah, there's a big gigantic cloverleaf that I feel like is famous-ish. I don't know.
There's a number of cloverleafs I've been on.
I think it's like up north. Is it Mulholland? I don't know. Here's the thing.
That's in Bel Air.
So much of my understanding of LA geography is based off of Grand Theft Auto. and that's not even right. LA. No. It's not right.
Yeah, it's
close.
Fictional LA.
It's an approximation. Like GTA 5 Los Santos. There are things that there are entire vistas that you can look at in that game that are kind of 1-to-1 with Los Angeles, because what Rockstar did for 5 years is just drive around LA and take pictures of literally everything. But yeah, it's
for GTA 4,
GTA 5.
GTA 5.
4 was Liberty City, which is their New York pastiche.
Right? Is it New York or is that Miami?
No, you're thinking of Vice City.
Vice City, right?
And that was years and years and years and years.
I loved Vice City. That was fun. I also love the very realistic San Andreas.
Yes. An incredibly realistic depiction of the Southwest United States and what California looks like. California or Southern and Central California, and then just a corner of Nevada are actually 3 big islands that are floating out in the middle of everywhere. Right. That's one of the things that's always bugged me a little bit about GTA is I understand that you kind of have to do that because you're giving players aircraft at a certain point.
Right.
And you don't want it to feel... I feel like... What bothers me is that the maps are always islands with fucking nothing around them for hundreds of miles. It's like, this is not a real place that could exist. This is not connected to anywhere else in the world.
Must have been just the solution they found.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And like Red Dead Redemption doesn't have to do that because you'll the most you have is a horse,
right?
Like you can put mountains in the way and it will make sense that you cannot pass through them,
right?
Whereas that doesn't quite make the same amount of sense in Grand Theft Auto, and you don't want to have like an invisible wall where if you hit it, your plane will just explode. So you make the whole thing one big island, but then it's like, okay, I'm trying to imagine this place as a real place, and there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles of ocean all around it. And yeah, it's just it's a little weird, I guess. It's one of the things you got to do.
I would love it eventually when the technology grows to the next couple of levels to have a Grand Theft Auto North America.
Just the entire country,
just the entire continent.
Yeah. That I feel like, I mean, I don't know if we're ever going to get a GTA 6 at this point.
Really?
We will eventually, but it'll be like, God, it's been over a decade since Grand Theft Auto 5 came out.
Has it been that long?
It's been, well, I think, okay, maybe not over a decade. I think it will be a decade in September. I think it was 2013. Now that I'm actually thinking about it, but it will be a decade in September.
Wow.
I got it for my Xbox 360. It's so crazy to me that there were so many regular entries, on a semi-regular schedule for quite a long time. And then they hit one that's got microtransactions in it, and we don't get another game for 10 years or longer.
See, I haven't played GTA 5. Never played it. I didn't know there was microtransactions.
I mean, not in the campaign, which is what everybody originally bought it for, because the multiplayer, the multiplayer, I think, didn't come out for a couple of months. And when it did come out, it was a technical disaster.
Really?
None of the servers worked. It was an absolute technical nightmare for a long time. But they put in like microtransactions where you could buy in-game money with real money. You could buy experience with money. You could and use all that things to buy stuff in the game. And Rockstar made a ridiculous amount of money, and it found out a way to get a continuous cash flow out of their games. Whereas before then, the thing that Rockstar had always done is spend a lot of money making this massive game, and then when people go and buy it, that's it.
Right.
Like, it's very traditional media. You don't have, a continuous, that much of a continuous trickle of money. Other than people buying like full copies of the game every once in a while. Like after that initial burst, it, doesn't, it peters out.
Right.
And yeah, GTA 5 just was a massive, massive success and continued to be super successful with their microtransactions. And like Red Dead, they can still make great campaigns. Like Red Dead Redemption 2 is one of the best games I've ever played. Has some of the best characters in any game I've ever played. Like
Arthur, I gotta play it.
Arthur Morgan is one of my favorite video game protagonists ever. And all the other characters are just fantastic and really build off of the first game, which is another one of my favorite games ever made. But like, I feel like I'm worried about what they might want to do with GTA 6, because like I've talked about this before, I think on the podcast, about how like GTA 4 was still very much a Rockstar game. Like it's still funny. There are still a lot of wacky characters who are like weird psychos. The classic things you expect from a Rockstar story.
Right.
But the bones of the story were a very serious kind of crime drama with a very sort of somber main character with an extremely dark past. Like Nico is not funny.
Right.
Nico is not a funny man. He's even less funny than Arthur, who like Arthur definitely has his moments of being very serious. But for the most part, Arthur keeps it kind of light and doesn't externalize how, depressed or unsure he is about something. Nico is just like constantly dour. But like, and I really liked that part of GTA 4's story, that it was serious, and that Nico was also someone that who's like Arthur, someone you could identify with a little bit, someone you could empathize with, someone you could have sympathy for. And GTA 5 has 3 protagonists, and all of them are awful pieces of shit with no redeeming qualities.
Right.
And it like I have a lot of desire to replay Red Dead Redemption 2. It's just difficult to do that because it's so fucking long and everything is kind of arduous.
It's intimidating.
And I've replayed GTA 4 a couple times. I've replayed the original Red Dead a couple of times. I've never replayed GTA 5's campaign. I have no desire to spend any more time with those characters. And like a lot of people are really fond of the character Trevor, who's played by Stephen Ogg. And he's, you know, the Stephen Ogg character that he's played on everything he's appeared in since then, of like, he's a crazy psycho dude. And he's entertaining once to me.
Sure.
After that, it's like, all right, I know Trevor's, I know his deal.
We've seen every trick in the bag.
I've seen all his tricks. I don't need to see more from him. But yeah, I hope they kind of take some lessons from Red Dead Redemption 2 of like, oh, people really respond to having this kind of more serious story that is willing to take itself seriously when it's appropriate. And, you know, we can do this complex character drama with these multifaceted characters and people aren't going to throw it away. Because Red Dead 2 was also like very financially successful. The multiplayer didn't end up being nearly as successful as GTA 5,
which I've played it. The Red Dead 2 multiplayer.
The vibe I got is it seems like there wasn't a ton to do.
Right.
Like,
just run around and shoot each other.
Yeah. And like, I think that's just a problem that's sort of endemic with the setting. Like, if you don't have a specific task to do in GTA 5, if you don't have a mission, it's still fun to just blast around town in a super fast hypercar and run into people and do random bullshit and go steal a tank and like, you know, do all kinds of crazy stuff. You can't do that in Red Dead Redemption 2 because you're just a guy with a revolver and a horse.
Right. I mean, because it's set in the late 19th century. So
yeah.
There wasn't. If you go back there, hey man, if we could just go back to those times, you'd be so fucking bored.
So bored all the time.
Yeah.
Like that's a thing. Like boredom is a thing that people have unlearned. What I'm trying to say is like people used to be okay with being bored.
Right.
We're not okay with being bored anymore. We don't know how to be bored.
It really kind of sucks because my 12-year-old, he's at that age now where I can kind of show him some of the movies I want him to see. Yeah. As long as I'm watching it with him, you know, it's cool. There's some rated R stuff.
Yeah.
And I forget that, you know, some of these tension-filled, suspenseful horror movies
are not always
they're not
immediately engaging.
No, there's going to be dialogue, and then there's going to be suspense, and I'll look over at Max, and it'll be on my phone.
Yeah.
Damn, sorry to bore you, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's some, you know, as he gets older, I feel like a lot of, well, not everybody, I guess, but I don't know. He's your kid. So like, I feel like if taste is at all hereditary, he will probably learn to appreciate some of those things.
I hope so.
I like, you know, I remember being around his age or a little older and watching some older movies with my dad and being like, oh, I kind of get it. It still took me a while before like I think we tried to watch Good, the Bad and the Ugly one time. And I was like, God, I'm bored.
Really?
I'm so bored. I mean, you got to admit, it's an incredibly long movie.
It's very long and pretty sparse.
Not a lot that happens for a large portion of it. It's beautiful and iconic, and the music is amazing, and the performances are all good. But there's not a lot that actually happens in it because they really take their time getting to each event, which is great. But when you're 15, it's not so great.
You start squirming in your chair.
Can we watch Predator again? Like, yeah. Can we go watch Pacific Rim, please? Like, yeah, it's, and I think even now I do sometimes have trouble sitting down, especially if it's something new where I'm not certain I'm going to enjoy it. And if it doesn't have something that immediately grabs my attention before it slows down, I sometimes will have trouble like sitting through something that will eventually be more engaging and rewarding for sitting through it. It's one of those things where I kind of need to like watch a review from a channel being like, this is really good and here's why. It spoils a little bit of it, but it lets me know like, oh, I will enjoy this.
It'll be worth your time if you just...
I can hold on.
Stick it out. Like I challenge you at some point, if you get 3 hours to watch the movie Barry Lyndon.
Barry Lyndon. I know that name. I have no idea what it's about.
It's a Kubrick movie.
Okay.
If you know who that is.
Yes. I believe it's Kubrick, isn't it? Is it Kubrick or Kubrick?
I've heard both.
Okay.
It might be Kubrick. Well, Stanley probably because Kubrick. Anyway, and it's been described by its own director, the aforementioned Stanley Kubrick, as 3 hours of beautifully shot, very well lit boredom.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, that does sound like something Stanley Kubrick would do.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I will have to give that a try at some point, I guess. It's the anti Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah, it is. Full Metal
like
Jacket.
there's I mean, the second half slows down a little bit at parts and the second half becomes more of a typical Stanley Kubrick movie.
Right, when they go to war.
At least in the quiet parts where they're not actively shooting, it's to my understanding, actually a relatively accurate depiction of what a combat zone is like, where it's like long stretches of boredom accompanied by short moments of intense violence and terror.
Right. That's sort of my life in general.
But the first half of Full Metal Jacket is hardly a Stanley Kubrick movie until right at the very end.
Right.
When it's like, oh yeah, this is a Stanley Kubrick
That's
movie.
right. I forgot.
Oh fuck, that was dark.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
I am
in a world of shit. It's been a while since I've watched Full Metal Jacket. I should rewatch that.
You should.
At some point.
Yeah, one of my teenagers recently watched it on his own.
It's a classic.
It is.
I think like what got me into it is watching just clips of just R. Lee Ermey from that. Just
Sure.
the clips of his insults because they're hilarious.
Oh, yeah, and those are all like stuff he came up with.
He just improvised them on the fucking spot.
Right.
And it's like the only time Stanley Kubrick has ever let anybody improvise their lines on one of his movies because he was infamously picky and strict about people saying what was in the script, and forcing people to do takes over and over and over again.
Right.
And I feel like have to wonder if R. Lee Ermey just intimidated him enough to be like, I'm just going to let this guy do what he wants.
Maybe.
And then was like, oh, he knows exactly what he's doing, so I don't need to worry about it.
Because I feel like he wasn't the first choice for the role.
He wasn't.
Right, yeah. They got another guy there, and R. Lee Ermey was brought on to like be a consultant or whatever.
And was like, he's not doing it right. Here, let me show you.
Yeah.
And then Stanley Kubrick was like, do you want to just do it?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a fantastic movie. Love Full Metal Jacket. I have not played any new video games, I guess. What I did do recently is I switched my platform for the game Deep Rock Galactic, which I had been playing. I'd been playing the Xbox version
right.
Through Game Pass on PC because, it's cross-compatible there. And I was beginning to become increasingly frustrated with the player base of the Xbox version, where it just seems like, I don't know if there's some difference in communication where when you type something in, I don't know if there's something where like Xbox players don't see it if you type in the chat or something like that. But it felt like I was getting more and more low level players that would do the most annoying and frustrating shit. And I would tell them, hey, like, don't do it this way, do it this way. Or like do thing, if you do it this way, it'll be easier and it won't piss off your teammates. And no one ever fucking listened. No one ever listened. I would do push to talk voice chat. No one would listen to what I have. Like people and part of it, I wonder, is like maybe there's a bunch of kids that are playing, younger kids who maybe don't have their voice chat turned on or just don't care. It's, I'm going to do whatever I want. And like you would have people who were like level 3, like they'd been playing the game for like 30 minutes that would jump into like, so there are 5 difficulty levels. They would jump into 4 or 5 with base equipment, very little experience, and then do shit that gets the rest of the team killed. And it's like, no, like grind your way through some of the lower difficulties and get some better equipment.
God damn it, Leroy.
Before you jump straight into the most difficult stuff. Like, because it was just pissing me off. So I was like, I wonder if it's any better on Steam, because when the game like released in early access 5 years ago, it was just on PC, and they eventually released the console versions. But like PC is the game's home. That's where its largest player base still is. And something about like I feel like for PC games, the player base tends to trend older because the things themselves tend to be quite a bit more expensive than an individual console.
Right.
So it's like, okay, maybe if I play on the Steam version, it will be better. And I haven't played a ton of games. And last night I was playing entirely with a group of my friends, and we were all communicating to each other over Discord. So there wasn't that problem. Two of them were very new players because the person who used to play with me on Xbox also switched over to Steam.
Gotcha.
And like you can't just migrate accounts. You have to like actually like copy and paste like save files from folder to folder.
Oh, really?
I downloaded an app that someone made that just automates that whole process because I do not trust myself. The other person's an IT professional, so they're fucking fine.
Aren't you an IT professional as well?
Nope.
Information technology.
No, I'm not an IT professional. I'm just 27. It's easy to get the two things confused. But you shouldn't, because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. But yeah, like, so I did that, migrated my data, and hopefully it will be a little bit less frustrating, because it just seemed like it was happening more and more often, of just like shitty teammates just ruining the experience for me, and me not wanting to be an asshole. But like I had one where like the way the game tends to work is you have certain objectives. And then when you complete one of those objectives, there will sometimes be like a button that you can press on a machine that will start the next objective. Sometimes pressing that button is accompanied by a swarm of bugs coming out and trying to kill you. And it's generally a good idea to not press that button when there's already a swarm of bugs attacking you. And last week, I had a player who every single fucking time there was a button ready to be pressed, he would go over and press it immediately, regardless of whatever else was happening. And then there's like a random event where there is this like attack robot that has machine guns and grenade launchers on the top of it that's been infected by this thing that's like taken over its computer systems, that you need to like destroy the little bulbs on it in order to deactivate this robot. The rest of the team seemed like they were going to leave it alone. Like I pointed it out to them like, hey, there's this thing we can go do, and nobody went to go do it. And then while we were waiting for the drop pod to come to finish the mission, this fucker goes over and immediately attacks this thing. And it starts roaming while there's tons of other bugs too. And it starts roaming around the room and like downs the entire rest of the team, minutes away from the mission being completed. When we had been playing for like, the mission had been going for like a half an hour.
Wow.
All of that down the drain. And it just like, that's what made me go like, fuck this, I'm switching to Steam. Where at least I know everyone's on the same platform and can see when I type things in the chat.
Wow.
Normally I try not to get, I mean, I avoid a lot of multiplayer games in general, because like I tend to get frustrated with myself, you know, and Deep Rock up until very recently had been like, yes, this is good. This is, I don't have to be frustrated with my teammates. Everyone's doing a good job. And it seems like it's not the case anymore. I feel like the people who play on Steam also might be more inclined to look at some things about the game before they start playing it. Like some of the things that I feel like have gotten lots of players into the game have been like big YouTubers making videos about it. And almost in almost all of those videos that I've seen, those YouTubers talk extensively about all of the different little like bits of etiquette and ritual that you do when you're playing as a dwarf. Like, here are the things that are considered polite by other players. You should always make sure to do them.
And then that gets completely ignored.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, don't take more than one resupply out of the resupply pod. Don't do this. This. I don't know. There are things. These things, they bother me. It's me, Columbo.
I only play multiplayer with my children.
Yeah.
That's the only. Other than that, if I wasn't just trying to spend time with people I love, no fucking way. I'm not going to by myself of my own volition start up a in Fortnite. I am not.
You're not going to do that to your own mental health.
No, I'm not.
It's like League of Legends. Everyone I know who plays League of Legends seems like they despise it, and yet they keep playing it. I don't like. For years, our friend Matt would be like. Would complain about playing League of Legends, and then he would go and play it again, and it would be like, if you're not having fun, why are you playing it? And he did, to his credit, he did eventually be like, you know what? I'm serious about it. I'm putting down League of Legends, and I'm never playing it again. To my knowledge, he hasn't done that. He has started playing World of Warcraft again, which I feel like at some point he was like, I'm not going to do that, but
for some reason I have this masochistic itch to scratch.
And at our Sunday D&D table, there are two other big WoW players there. So, but yeah, MMOs have never really been my thing.
Nope.
Let's talk about Cattle Decapitation.
Yeah.
So, Cattle Decapitation is an American extreme metal band, mostly a death metal band, from San Diego, California. They've been around for a while, since the late 90s. Started out as kind of a really sort of lo-fi, just gross gore grind band.
Right.
And eventually,
they're like my age.
Yeah, they eventually transitioned in the late 2000s, in the late aughts. They transitioned towards a sort of death grind kind of sound, sort of a combination of grindcore and death metal. And that's sort of what they've been developing ever since. There's an album they made called The Harvest Floor. That was kind of the first album that sort of showcased that slightly more cleaned up, tighter sound.
Better produced.
And they've been developing off of that ever since then. So we've talked about, I don't think it was an episode you were on. It would have been like pretty early. I think we talked about the Anthropocene extinction.
Yeah, it was.
Did I talk about that with you? Okay.
Yep.
And then, of course, when Death Atlas came out, we talked about that as well. And this is their new album, Terrasite. And I haven't looked at reviews of it.
Really? You haven't looked at any reviews?
Well, because I don't want to be a buzzkill, but I wasn't super into it.
Really?
And I didn't want to read. I didn't want to read something and have that like
echo your
color my perception or change. I didn't want my opinion. I wanted my opinion of it to be fresh until at least after I've talked to you about it. Just because I don't know, there are little bits and bobs, little nagging things here and there that sort of got stuck in my head as things that bothered me about it. Not to say that this is bad by any mean or that I disliked this album. It is still a Cattle Decapitation album.
Right.
But I think my main problem is I didn't like it as much as I wanted to.
Sure. Didn't like it as much as Death Atlas.
Yeah. And I think like kind of explaining a couple of the things, I think part of it is like, some of it is stuff that's just on this album, and some of it is stuff that I feel like has always been a part of their music that my perception of has changed. And I think some of it is I have lost my taste, I think, for their brand of misanthropy and cynicism.
Right. And this is a very cynical record.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I've kind of lost my taste for it, honestly, after COVID. Like, Death Atlas came out a couple months before COVID hit. They had a song on it called Bring Back the Plague.
Right.
And at the time, that was fine to enjoy that, unironically. And sort of since then, like, I don't know. After 3 years of pandemic, the take, which is the core of this album, the take that, oh, human beings are the real virus, feels really boring and played.
Right.
It feels like, oh, I see you've read some Nietzsche and then smoked a joint, like. And that feels really reductive and really down, probably more down on the album than I mean to be. But it's like the basic concept of like, oh, human beings are the virus, and we all should just die. The earth would be better off without human beings. And the world
will go on without you.
The world, and like the whole world would be better off without all of us. And it's like, okay. If that's true, then why are you still here? If you really believe that, why haven't all of you just killed yourselves? And I don't think the band genuinely believes that. I it's one of those things where I don't know where the line is between like genuinely held convictions about this sort of stuff and like, oh, this is, we're writing lyrics for a death metal song.
Right.
Like, I don't know where the line is for them, because they are people who are known for like genuinely being very, concerned about the environment and that sort of thing. Right. And it's like, I don't think Travis Ryan actually believes that the human race should all be exterminated.
No, I mean, he's been singing about it for decades, but
yeah. But again,
yeah,
he's the lead singer of a death metal band,
and that's their shtick.
Yeah.
So,
but it just, to me, kind of feels like that shtick is getting a little old, and I would like to hear something new. And this is coming from me, a guy who unironically enjoys a lot of really depressing shit.
Yeah. But
I think for me, a lot of the depressing shit that I enjoy is all introspectively depressing. Like it's all about personal problems. When I'm like consuming media about like the world, I like things that are a little bit more hopeful.
Right.
Like, it's perfectly fine to be like, world's a bag of shit, things are awful, but then follow that up with,
here's how to help.
But we can do better.
Right.
It's not too late. We can try some things. We can fucking do something. And the take of like, it's too late. We're all doomed. Everyone should just die.
Film at 11.
Yeah. Felt like that bothers me a little bit. Another thing that bugs me, I feel like, is it's weird. It feels kind of weird because like for the last two albums, they've officially added a full-time rhythm guitarist. Before then, Josh Elmore was the only guitarist. I feel like their guitar, despite the fact that like, oh, now all Josh has to do is write the leads, I feel like the guitars have become more and more boring. They've become less creative. Not that all, metal needs guitar solos, but there were only two that I counted on this entire album. One on the first song and another on the seventh song. And I feel like there used to be a lot of really awesome guitar solos in different like Anthropocene Extinction has some pretty awesome guitar solos.
Right.
So does Monolith of Inhumanity. Like I feel like as they've trended more towards like the ambient and adding in like some black metal elements, like those are all cool. But I don't know. I just want to hear some shredding, man. Some like I want to hear something more, and like there's so much ultra fast tremolo picking on here, and it's like that's really cool. But my cat's being like, stop talking. I want to hear you talk about the album because it seems like you probably enjoyed this more than I did. You probably enjoyed this to the level that I wish I did.
It feels like I did. I mean, going in, I knew I was getting cattle decap, so I'm like, they're going to talk about stuff that, in fact, I might have been kind of disappointed had they not, and had it been about ice cream and rainbows.
Well,
so I knew that going in, and I thought, wow, these guys kind of doubled down a little bit on that idea, that feeling that I mean, the name is Terrasite. It's talking about the human parasite on the planet. So I sort of just let that just wash off.
I couldn't let go of it.
Right.
I wish I could. I couldn't.
Because there's some actually well written songs on here.
Oh, there absolutely are. There's some really killer stuff. But I couldn't silence that voice in the back of my head that was like, this is a thing that bothers you. I just couldn't do that. I don't know. I don't know why. That said, like I think like one of the things is also that I was hoping for it to be more new. Mm-hmm. It feels like this is Death Atlas Part 2.
Yeah, it's a lot of the same. There's a lot of the same in there.
The vast majority of this feels like it's something I've heard before. It's more stuff that's still good. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like it's the Cannibal Corpse problem.
Sure.
Right? Of like, all right, these are all still objectively awesome songs, but none of it is anything that is at all different from the 5 Cannibal Corpse albums preceding it.
Right. There was some stuff on here that was actually catchy. I'll have to give it, yeah.
That was some of the stuff that was new. Uh-huh. Travis makes a bit more use of not even the sort of melodic kind of goblin voice that he does. Right. Like a couple of the songs have a fair amount of, I don't know if I call it singing.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
It's goddamn close to singing.
Just Another Body?
Yeah.
My God, yeah, he sings in that whole thing.
It's not, big operatic or anything, but it is, yeah, it's understated. Mm-hmm. But
it's very reminiscent of old man
Nick Holmes.
Yeah, Nick Holmes.
From Paradise Lost.
Right.
Yeah. Now that you say that, yes, it is very reminiscent of that.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's something that I really liked. And I don't know. I think I was hoping, like, from a songwriting perspective, for them to push the envelope a little bit more in some ways. I don't know in what direction though. Right. Like I couldn't point out to you which way I would want them to really go. Because in addition to doubling down on like the misanthropic elements, they also doubled down on the sort of post-metal elements that they've been slowly introducing over the last few albums. The sort of moodier leads and slower portions that get a little doomy, get a little like ambient black metal-y at certain points. All things that I like.
Yes,
but yeah, it was there for some reason. To me, it just felt like in some ways less than the sum of its parts. Like, these are all things that I should like. Why don't I like it?
Well, because people change,
I guess.
Maybe once you've eaten so much of something, you're full of it.
Yeah.
And you want to try something new,
And like I said, I feel like it was kind of COVID. I feel like it's been it's been 3 years of like, all this bullshit and people, millions of people dying and there, fucking land war in Europe and like all of this shit happening. And I'm like, you know what? I could use a little bit of hope.
Right, because
for the human race.
when the Anthropocene extinction came out, that was like watching a horror movie.
Yeah.
And then the horror movie became a reality, and you're going to give us more horror movie on top of the horror movie that is the reality?
It's like, no, that's already...
I'm kind of full.
I don't need to listen to this album to get that. I can just watch the news. So yeah, I guess that's some of it.
Sure.
And I have noticed that like over the last couple of years, for the months after Death Atlas came out, I was like, this is fucking awesome. And then recently I've just had no desire to revisit it for those reasons of just like, this is all about stuff that, kind of came to pass. And I just don't feel like reliving that in the music. I'm going to go listen to this album that's about fucking, this album about fucking. No, I'm going to go listen to this, like that awesome Revocation album that we listened to. Like, I'm going to listen to this Satanic Rebellion. That's pretty awesome. Like, I don't know.
One of these times, by the way, when we're doing it, when's the next time we do not metal? Is that
September?
Oh, September. Okay. I'm going to make a note. Something to go off.
An album
September.
about fucking?
An album called Songs About Fucking.
What's that? By whom?
Big Black.
Oh God, I feel like every time you've brought one of these albums where there's like a lot of sexual content on it, I don't know why, it always makes me uncomfortable. Like, I'm not a prude, but for some reason in music, when things get really overtly sexual, I'm like, ugh,
gross.
Stop it.
This album isn't overtly sexual. It's
is the songs about fucking supposed to be tongue in cheek?
It's supposed to be jarring because
Okay.
everything the main creative force behind Big Black is a guy named Steve Albini. If you know who that is.
Oh, okay, I know that name.
Yeah, but
very
mainly-
prolific music producer.
Right. Yep. And so everything on here is jarring.
Okay. Yeah,
jarring,
'cause
but delightfully so.
Because his own material is, if I remember correctly, known for often being very avant-garde and weird. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's. I feel like I might be a bit more on board with that then. I think that's the thing is like if you're gonna have like kind of sexual content in there, it needs to be. The music needs to be so fucking weird, like something about typo negative.
I knew you were gonna. This right where this was gonna go.
It was
negative.
Like I don't. It makes me uncomfortable. I don't know why.
Yeah, I do anything to make you come.
And in his voice, too, it's just like I'm not your target audience for this. Your target audience was 19-year-old goths.
Yeah, 25 years ago.
25 years ago,
right?
I am not wearing. I'm not carrying around my I guess VHS copy of. Oh no, why can't I? It was like a cult movie about witches that came out in the 90s.
Oh, talking about The Craft. The Craft, right.
I'm not carrying around my VHS copy of The Craft and with my fishnets and whatnot.
Did you know Fairuza Balk and I were born in the same month?
Why would I know that? No, I didn't know that. Cattle decapitation.
Speaking of Fairuza Balk,
that I feel like whenever we talk about bands with like grotesque names like this, because the way we can't segue back into bands, so it's just one of us saying the name of the band.
Right. There's
it's always so funny and jarring when it's something grotesque like
so Cattle Decapitation. What was the one from 2 weeks ago?
Fucking cunt.
So anyway.
Yeah. Does this album slap?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Like I don't want anyone to think just because I'm certain little bits of the album bother me. I don't want anyone to think this album doesn't fucking slap. It certainly does.
It does.
It has, for quite a lot of it, a very relentless pace.
There are songs in here I want to listen to again.
Yeah.
I mean that's the sign of a good album.
Yeah, that's definitely. And like I've listened to it probably 3-4 times all the way through. Like, and many of those times was like, just like it already. Just get into it. I mean, I feel like a lot of people who have maybe fallen out of love with a piece of media will do that sort of thing where they're like, I used to like this. I'm going to rewatch this or re-listen to it until I like it again.
I've been there tons of times.
I guess the next thing, my next criteria is usually score, which I very pointedly said I didn't look up.
So we don't know.
Because I know that Death Atlas got slightly mixed reviews when it came out. Like it didn't dip down into like the 60s or anything, but like it got more mixed reviews than Anthropocene Extinction did. So I wonder what the consensus is critically about this, and that's part of why I didn't look that up, because it's like I didn't want that to color my perception of the album. But now, you know, maybe if I go and look up some reviews, maybe like something that reviews can do is like point out things about the album that you hadn't thought about. And when they're pointed out to you, you're like, oh yeah, that is good. I do like that. So I don't know.
Sorry, the story in my head is
what
is that you're going to open up the media and it's going to talk about how Travis, in order to get him in the proper mood to make this album, decided he was going to murder puppies all the while singing every song. Not something he would normally do, it would seem.
He's an animal rights activist.
Yeah, I know.
That would be very bizarre.
That would be out of character.
That would be very out of character. What's your favorite song on the album?
You know, it's kind of a toss up because there's two songs I like for two different reasons.
Okay.
One that's stuck in my head for like a day after I listen to this, and that's "We Eat Our Young."
Yeah.
But also, like I mentioned before, the swan song of this album,
Just Another Body.
Just Another Body is so good. I mean, it's like 8 minutes long.
It's 10 minutes.
Is
long.
it 10 minutes long?
Yeah. It's I feel like you know me well enough to know that that's my favorite.
That's your favorite song? Yeah.
Although I also really liked Solastalgia as well. And Scourge of the Offspring.
Sure.
That Scourge of the Offspring is
the third song.
It's the third song. It's one of the first ones that really kind of brings in the sort of melodic elements of the chorus into it, which is something that I've always enjoyed about the band. So yeah, like I think if you are more of a fan of the music than the subject matter, I think this is an album that you will absolutely enjoy and you will have a ton of fun with. If you're like me, where you kind of need to latch on subjectively to certain bits of subject matter or mood or vibe that come out of the lyrics, if you need that, then maybe it's for you. If you are as, misanthropic and nihilistic as the album, then maybe this is on your level. If you're more like me and crave maybe some amount of hope, positivity from some of the media you consume, this is probably not going to be your bag. But I don't know. I think a great example of like the vibe that I like is like Gojira, right?
Sure.
That's a band that's very concerned about the environment, very concerned about like animal rights stuff as well. Like, they're part of the Sea Shepherd organization. Like they're, on paper, a fairly similar band to Cattle Decapitation in a number of ways, but their music tends to trend towards the more hopeful while not ignoring the problems and whatnot. And that's something that I appreciate about their music. I mean, their music is also very different at this point.
Yeah, Gojira is way different.
Although if you listen to like their earliest albums, they were leaned very far into death metal territory in their earliest album.
The stuff before Magma.
Yeah, leaned much further into death metal territory in their early years. But do you know, we got to give it a medal. What medal are you bestowing upon this, like Mascanada to Chewbacca?
It gets a high silver for me.
Yeah, I would call it a silver as well. I wish I could give it a gold. I really, truly do. Like I am upset with myself that I don't enjoy this as much as I want to. Like I'm bothered by that.
There are songs on here I want to listen to again, but I don't know if I want to listen to the whole thing again.
Yeah.
I've listened to it like 4 times, but
and I think part of it is saturation.
Yeah,
like it's like I can listen to a couple of songs. And be like, all right, yeah, okay. But when the whole album, I feel like if just a couple of that songs went with the whole like, human annihilation sort of theme, and then they did a couple of other songs about something else.
Right. I mean, I feel like it'd be naked without the human extinction.
I guess.
I mean, I guess
could do something else that's just as brutal and yeah.
But maybe you just have the one thing about human extinction. You can't go without it, but you gotta.
Well, yeah.
Maybe you gotta stretch it. I think maybe actually they are being hopeful.
This is their version of being.
Their version of being hopeful. They're thinking, man, with any luck, no more people.
Oh God. I don't know.
I look forward to a utopia that I'm not in.
Yeah, with no people. I don't know. There is, and like, it's definitely not something that I think that the band is associated with at all. But there is like the whole thing of like human beings are the real virus is, as I understand, kind of a tenet of what I've heard referred to as eco-fascism.
Yeah.
So that like that was kind of in my head of like, oh, they're saying the same thing that these people say. I don't believe for a second that anyone in the band feels that way, but that is a genuinely held belief of those people. That, you know, in order for the world to be saved, we've got to, you know, commit global genocide. But surprisingly, they're very particular about the people who get to live.
Yeah, interesting.
These fascists. They seem to want only the white people to live. How strange. Anyway.
Have you ever seen the movie 12 Monkeys?
I've not actually seen 12 Monkeys. I ought to.
You ought to see 12 Monkeys.
I ought to watch it.
More so than Barry Lyndon.
Okay, so I should put it higher on the list than Barry Lyndon?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you want to do next week? What do you want to talk about?
Oh, shit. You know, I didn't even consider that.
You're going to do a me? You're going to pull a Kale and not know what we want to listen to until later?
I hadn't considered it. Okay.
I mean, you really have no excuse. We do it every week. We do this podcast every week. You know that you would have to talk about an album next week.
Yeah.
How could you not come with one ready to go?
Look here, Kettle. Listen to what the pot is saying right now. Yeah, give me a bit.
Okay.
All right. Be a surprise for everybody else next week.
Okay. Got one yet?
I mean,
gave you a bit.
I could.
No, it's fine. Yeah, it's perfectly fine. So until next week's episode, whatever it is we happen to be talking about, why don't you go ahead? Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
I would imagine so. Go ahead and follow us on Facebook or Twitter, and subscribe to our feed on whatever it is you're using to listen to us right now. Thank you very much for listening to another episode of the Bronze Metalist. What?
You guys are great. Just want to let you know that.
Thank you for interrupting my outro.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you're doing great, Kale. Go ahead.
You're going to interrupt me again, aren't you? You're looking at me like you're going to interrupt me again.
No, we're good. We're good.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Kale.
I hate your guts. You fucking asshole. You piece of shit. I was doing so good. Fucking goddamn. Okay. I can't look at you. Thank you very much for listening. Fuck you. Fuck you. Oh, we're never going to be done. All right. Okay. Thank you very much for listening to another episode of the Bronze Medalist Podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
Congratulations.
Good job, Kale.
Go fuck yourself.